Tomatoes seem easy to grow, right? Just plant them, water them, and wait for juicy red fruit. But if that were the case, why do so many gardeners end up with weak plants, tiny tomatoes, or worse, none at all? It's not just about what you should do, it's also about what you shouldn't do. One big mistake is planting tomatoes in the same spot every year. It might seem like a time saver, but the soil gets drained of nutrients, making each season's plants weaker than the last. Even worse, pests and diseases that target tomatoes linger in the soil, just waiting for new plants to attack. By rotating crops, planting tomatoes in a different spot each year, you reduce these risks and keep the soil healthier. Then there's watering. Too much and the roots drown. Too little and the plant struggles. But the real issue isn't just quantity, it's consistency. Tomatoes need deep, steady watering so their roots grow strong. A shallow daily sprinkle might seem helpful, but it encourages weak roots that can't handle hot, dry days. Instead, soaking the soil every few days allows water to reach deeper, making the plant more resilient. Fertilizing can be tricky too. A lot of gardeners assume that more nutrients mean bigger harvests, but overloading on nitrogen leads to leafy, jungle-like plants with barely any fruit. Tomatoes need a balanced diet. Phosphorus and potassium help with flowering and fruit production. If the plant looks healthy but isn't producing, the problem could be too much nitrogen and not enough of the other essential nutrients. Speaking of balance, pruning is another area where gardeners either go overboard or don't do enough. If you never prune, the plant becomes crowded, trapping moisture and inviting disease. However, if you prune too aggressively, the plant loses too many leaves, which are essential for photosynthesis and protecting fruit from sun scald. The best approach is light but regular pruning, removing some suckers for airflow while keeping enough foliage to support growth. Spacing is another mistake that's easy to overlook. It's tempting to squeeze in as many tomato plants as possible, but overcrowding leads to poor airflow and competition for nutrients. This not only weakens the plants, but also creates the perfect environment for fungal diseases like blight. Keeping at least 18 to 24 inches between plants allows for better growth, stronger roots, and healthier fruit. Mulching is one of the simplest ways to improve tomato growth, yet many gardeners skip it. Without mulch, the soil dries out faster, weeds take over, and temperature changes stress the plant. A good layer of mulch helps retain moisture, regulate soil temperature, and keep weeds in check. But not all mulch is beneficial. Fresh grass clippings or wet straw can lead to mold, so using dry organic materials like shredded leaves or wood chips is a better choice. Another problem is waiting too long to stake or cage tomatoes. At first, they seem fine unsupported, but as they grow, their weight causes them to sprawl. By the time they start toppling over, it's much harder to stake them without breaking branches. Setting up supports early keeps plants upright, protects the fruit, and makes harvesting easier. Pollination is something many gardeners don't think about until their plants flower, but don't produce fruit. While tomatoes are self-pollinating, they still rely on wind or insects to move pollen. If there aren't enough pollinators around, gently shaking the flowers or using a small paintbrush to transfer pollen can help ensure better fruit production. Timing matters too. Planting tomatoes too early in cold soil slows their growth because the roots struggle to absorb nutrients. It's tempting to get a head start, but if the soil isn't warm enough, at least 16 degrees, the plant just sits there, stressed and weak. Waiting a little longer gives the plants a stronger start and better overall growth. And finally, ignoring pests can ruin a tomato crop faster than you'd expect. Small problems, like a few aphids or tiny holes in leaves, can quickly turn into an infestation. Regularly checking for pests and using natural methods, like neem oil or introducing ladybugs, keeps things under control. The sooner you act, the easier it is to protect your plants. Growing tomatoes isn't just about doing the right things, it's about avoiding the wrong ones. A few simple changes can make the difference between struggling plants and a garden overflowing with delicious, homegrown tomatoes.